right, so Jason, our teams,
Yes.
boy, our teams, the Knicks. The Knicks and the Hawks are on some shaky ground, my friend. The Knicks dropped 2 straight, although they have a home game against the Pacers Monday night, so they could bounce back there. Hawks were off to a rough start. We were on the West Coast, and it was tough over there on the West Coast. But we did get a win on Sunday against the defending champs, the Bucks. They were missing some players. It was a struggle for everyone, but Trey dropped the 42-piece nugget and snapped our 6-game losing streak. So I'm feeling good because we have 8 of our next 11 games at home. So I'm hoping that we can start trying to find some chemistry, go streaking, win some games in a row, get some of those things doing. So I'm feeling good about the win. I still have some concerns, but what are you feeling on your end?
It's a little shaky right now. The big thing is that the starting lineup, the starters are not getting it done for whatever reason. The bench unit is coming in and they are just wrecking house, playing at a quick pace. I'll say this. One of the kind of themes of last season for the Knicks, as they had, really a top 5 defense for most of the season, was that, and you heard a lot of, like advanced stat kind of people mention this, was that some of that might have been fool's gold because while the Knicks were very active on defense, and of course Tom Thibodeau is known for his defensive prowess as a coach, Knicks opponents were missing a lot of open threes. They were giving up. The defense was designed to, to kind of cut off lanes, swing, and then that 3-pointer in the corner or somewhere on that wing was always going to be open, and teams just missed. Now, they're not missing this year, and you add to that the fact that, after your Hawks mollywopped us in the playoffs, it was obvious that we needed offense, right? And so the trade-off was, well, if we can take a half a step back on defense, but take 2 steps forward on offense, right? With Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier and hopefully, the continued development of RJ and Quickly and Toppin, then it's worth it. Now, I think part of the problem is that we were actually a lot worse defensively than we kind of thought we were last season. But we just got lucky. And so now the step back isn't a half a step back. It's like a step and a half back.
Yeah.
And while offensively we are much better, we're top 10 offense right now. Defensively, we're like 24th, 25th in the league. And, a lot of new guys. So, figuring out the rotations and who plays. And I think Kemba Walker has clearly, I think is limited by whether it's the knee injury or what. I think he's clearly on the downside of stuff. Even if this is all we get from Kemba, who's averaging 12.5 right now, 42% from the field, 2.5 rebounds, 3 assists. Even if that's all, it was worth the gamble on him, but it's we just hopefully it gels and we figure out some scheme stuff to not give up open threes and get punished by Ricky Rubio, but that's what it is,
I was waiting on you to throw in Ricky Rubio, but you know what?
Us.
But you know what? Both of us are kind of in the same boat in a sense of last year, we were flying low under the radar. Nobody was checking for us. People would rest their favorite players against us. Your best player, that's who you would probably rest against one of our teams just because you want to save your great games. You think you can probably beat the Hawks or the Knicks without your full ensemble. So now this year, both teams, the Hawks and the Knicks, have some success and we rock up to the next season being, thinking it's the same old song, and it's not. Teams are ready for us now. You said teams are making more threes. Yeah, teams are actually probably, everybody's going to prepare every team because this is the pros and there's all kinds of staff, but no matter what, the games that you can probably win and the games that you're going to have to give your A game to win. And we just weren't that A game team, neither one of us. And so now we're both trying to figure it out. Well, what does it feel like to be the hunted? We were used to hunting, and now people are coming after us, and even us. I mean, Honestly, we're 1-8 on the road, 4-1 at home, and we've always been a great home team. But the 1-8, that's the tough part. But you talked about it. We have that core back, but every season, even if you have the exact same players, you come back with the same team another season, it'll feel different. The chemistry will be different. The vibes will be different. I don't know if fans know this, but each year a team is different. You know, like you go home in the off season and you could have somebody's homeboy telling him he should be taking more shots. And then you got another person and their family's telling them, you see how good y'all were when you do this, you got to do more of that. So everybody comes in, it could be the exact same player and everybody comes in with a different mentality. And so, yes, we have new players as well as our old players and we have to figure it out every year. And I think that people thought that it was going to be like a pause button. The Hawks and the Knicks were just going to press play again when the season came back and we were going to start just where we left and everything was going to be copacetic. And that's just not how sports works. Like emotions, energy, egos, chemistry, those are all things that have to be developed every single year and maintained. And so we're kind of just seeing that effect.
I think the good news for both of us, like when I look at your squad, I think that it's like there's a bounty of riches. You got a lot of your players are healthy, which was not the case last season, right? So those decisions were kind of made for Nate McMillion about who would play.
Yep.
This season, it's like Danilo Gallinari is hardly playing, and he was a big part of what was happening last season. And that obviously you got to with new contracts and new roles
Cam Reddish.
That's right. You've got to move past Danilo Gallinari, but there's just going to be. It's not so easy to just do that. Guys have to figure it out. Guys have to play together. They have to figure out those roles. So I think a lot of it is just like reps, getting out there and building a chemistry, especially for y'all's team.
DeAndre Hunter out 8 weeks now for a wrist injury. So there's minutes now available that'll work themselves out, to your point.
What I don't know what to do about is the Knicks bench. The Knicks bench is so much better than the starters right now. I think the game that really showed the difference was we lost to Milwaukee, 112-100. But we were down about 23 points second half of that game, and it was the bench that brought the team all the way back. And then Thibs gave them the opportunity to win or lose it, and they did eventually end up losing. But it's like that's one of those things where I don't know what to do because the guys who are starting right now kind of have to figure it out. Like, there's no option. Maybe Kemba. Maybe you switch Kemba for Rose.
That's the whole debate, though. I mean, I know the bench as a whole is outplaying the starters, to your point, like what you're saying. But really, people want to know what's going on with Derrick Rose and Kemba Walker. Because if you swap those two, I mean, Derrick Rose is like, he's a fan favorite wherever he goes. He's the fan favorite. So, and he's solid, and to his credit, he plays well. I mean, he played great in Minnesota for a team that was struggling at that time. Now he's with the Knicks. He's playing, but like he just produces wherever he is.
Yeah, I think, it's one of those things where if you're a fan, you think, oh, just move, give the bench guys more minutes. They're playing against bench players. So that's part of the successes. They're playing against second units.
Definitely.
And that increased energy, that youthful energy that they have is paying dividends there. And I think in a perfect world, you want Derrick Rose against those bench units because here you have a former MVP who maybe doesn't have like all the athleticism that he once did, but is still absolutely devastating against bench units. That's a great spot for him because you could just let him go. That's your squad. Like you are the focal point of that unit, and you just go. And that's the perfect way to play Derrick Rose at this point of his career, rather than have him try and run an offense with Julius Randle, with Fournier, with Mitchell Robinson, all these other guys. But it's tough.
And to that point, people have to forget, just once you start moving pieces on the puzzle, it doesn't mean that if you say, hey, let's move Derrick Rose from 6th man of the year to starting point guard, that doesn't mean that his productivity is going to be the exact same. Now he might be getting less shots. He might be playing against people that he doesn't get his same flow. So just, this is in the weeds of sports, but sometimes fans think it's as simple as, hey, this guy's scoring 12, this guy's scoring 15. Let's substitute the bench for the starters and then perfect. It doesn't work that way. And I also have to say, shouts to Kemba Walker. He's a Husky and, we bleed blue. We bleed blue over here. So I hope that Kemba does get healthy. I saw, every time I watch one of his interviews, he accountability is what he does on the next level. Yeah. And so he was like, you know what, I'm going to be more aggressive, blah, blah, blah. It's on me. So I just like the character of Kemba Walker and I'm rooting for him to kind of get back to where I'm sure he wants to be playing because players know what level you're playing. Like as a player, no one needs to tell Kemba Walker he's necessarily not playing to where they would want him to. Kemba Walker's probably telling Kemba Walker that every day. So shouts to Kemba. I hope you get back to where you want to be.
And you know what? Like if you really look at it, the bad of our last few losses, the bad one was Cleveland, who maybe are a lot better than we thought coming into the season because Mobley is insane and Jared Allen is very good. But it's our last two losses. Charlotte, who is very good and just beat the Warriors. Yep. And Milwaukee are the former champs. So, maybe this is, about our level. And this is a little bit of a come to earth moment after the really incredible bing bong start the season.
This is our sophomore slump. It's all right. We had our first season.
When will you worry? When will you officially worry, Renee?
Yeah, I actually said this on air a week ago. I said, hey, everybody, let's not hit the panic button. We're on the West Coast. It's going to be hard to figure out things on the road. I think the moment you start to feel a little bit of concern, maybe not hit the panic yet, because if people remember, the Hawks went on a crazy run towards the end of the year that changed, like post All-Star break is when we really turned it around. So I would say All-Star break is where you better start figuring it out or you better start making changes to figure it out, because usually teams, kind of like what the Hawks did and the Knicks, post All-Star break, we took off. I mean, we were winning an alarming rate of games, just really high. We had a lot of games at home, so that helped. So I guess for me too, it depends on your schedule, because if you have a lot of games in the first half of your season and you got to win a lot of games on the road, good luck in the second half when teams are fighting for playoff spots. But for just the Hawks, I would say we have 8 of our next 11 games at home. If we finish out this 11 game stretch and we haven't won a majority of those games, I would say it's time to start getting some conversations going about either switching the lineup up or where do we need to have more shots funneling to? Does John Collins need to get? You need to start re-strategizing if after this 11 games, we're not where we need to be. What do you think for your Knicks?
About 10 more games. Let's call it about 20, 25 games, and then we'll see. I'll say, similar to my argument for the Knicks, I'll say for you guys, and this just shows you that there is no mercy in the NBA at all. There's no mercy. Here is, you guys went on about a 6-game losing streak, but here's the teams that beat you. Brooklyn, okay, right? The KD, probably the best player in the NBA right now. Utah, I think either the number 1 or number 2 offense, and obviously defensively, crazy. They know what they've been doing for a while. Phoenix, they were in the finals last season. Golden State, at that time, the hottest team in the
State game. I called the 50-piece nugget by Steph. I said he had just gotten that fresh fade. You could tell he was straight from the barbershop. I said it on air because I like to be transparent. I said, hey guys, I don't know if I should be worried about the babyface assassin, but they say you look good, you feel good, you play good. He got a fresh cut, a fresh fade, the face, all of it. I was concerned. I went on record before the game, and then he dropped the 50-piece nugget on us.
Utah again. Right? And then Denver. So that's an insane stretch.
Come on, man.
That's a brutal stretch of teams. And there's just no mercy out here. There's no mercy. Speaking of the Warriors, and speaking of Steph Curry with a fresh fade, the most dangerous man arguably in the NBA right now. Woo! We got to talk about, okay, so the Warriors played the Bulls recently and beat them. Bulls, one of the hottest teams in the NBA. And Steph Curry took a shot, took a 3 at one point during the game. And before it went in, it's on the downswing, but still, it's like everybody else on the floor is waiting for the rebound, except for Steph, who knows that it's good. he has already turned around and is like pointing at the crowd. And the photo of this, just look it up, folks. Google it. It's one of the greatest sports photos, I think, in recent memories. If somebody did that to you, I mean, what can you do?
Absolutely nothing. First of all, I like the stuff that Steph Curry does, and this is coming from like, I considered myself a shooter. Like, like I had to say considered, because what Steph does, if that's shooting, then we need to get another category for what us mere mortals do. And then, and then what is it called that what Steph does? Cause we shoot, like I shot threes and I made threes too. But what Steph does to where he can predict the future and where he can predict what shots, and I'm not even talking about the makes. I don't know, people watch Steph play more. He knows where his misses are going too. He knows where other people's misses are going. That's how he's sneaky with the rebounding that he does and different things. What he does is not just shooting. There's like some magic in there. Majuting is what I'll call it. When he's majuting like that, because we've seen him do it before. People just haven't necessarily got the photos to prove it, but we've seen him shoot, turn around and laugh at the bench and like, that's going in. I've only seen him miss one. I will say that. And I was like, when he missed the one, I knew he was probably going to do like 5 more and make him crazy. And here we are. But he missed one actually 2 games ago before this museum style photo that you're talking about. He missed one and I knew he was in for something special, but I don't know. When Steph is majuting, I don't know how you can get higher than that. Some people said the shooting has evolved. We thought Reggie Miller was great. And then here comes Ray Allen. And then here comes Steph Curry. And what's the next after Steph Curry? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know what you could do. But some people said, maybe a fadeaway threes, bigger stuff. But I don't know if it gets better than what we're seeing. I'm sure it does, but I don't know.
Yeah, you're legitimately up against the boundary of the court at this point. That's the thing, like the physical limitations of the basketball court. I mean, we just have never seen anything like this because, usually if you're a great shooter, you're a great shooter one way, right? Like standstill shooter, catch and shoot, right? Yeah. Steph Curry can off the dribble,
I'm scared,
off the handoff, catch and shoot, whatever it is, like
from half court.
It's like he could do all of that. It's honestly mind-boggling again to look at that photo and be like, everybody else is playing regular basketball where they're waiting to see if is this going to go in or is this a rebound? We're waiting to find out. Steph Curry is not. He is legit. He's like, that's good. I'm not even looking at it.
He's already thinking about defense. He's like, all right, what celebration? That's why he has the best celebrations known to man. As soon as he lets it go, he knows if it's going in or not. So he starts planning. He's like, oh yeah, I might hit him with a little shimmy today. Or he just gets to decide. He has time for days. It's crazy.
It's really unbelievable. Moving on, Renee.
Yes.
Last week, ESPN football insider Adam Schefter tweeted the following, quote, Minnesota Vikings RB Dalvin Cook is the victim of domestic abuse and extortion. There's a pending litigation, according to his agent, Zach Hiller. And that tweet got about 30,000 likes and framed a narrative about an ongoing situation that had not yet broken into the news yet about the Minnesota running back. But Schefter did not mention that Gracelyn Trimble, Cook's former girlfriend, is suing Cook for battery and assault. Many in the media pointed out that Schefter, in promoting a narrative from Cook's agent, essentially sight unseen, shows not only a bias, but the kind of problematic nature of this kind of sports journalism and the way it hinges on relationships between agents and executives and these extremely popular and powerful media insiders like Adrian Wojnarowski, Shams Charania, and Adam Schefter. So I think the question is, how much control of a story do insiders have? And how much of a problem is this? And how do we stop certain agendas from being met? How do we stop this kind of pre-framing of, an actual legal case from taking place again?
I don't know if you do stop it. Like in a sense of,
agree.
You can't put the toothpaste back in the tube. You just can't do that. We have a thing here called social media, and that's what I think blurs the lines of journalism. I mean, this is a small part of what journalism is turning into. Journalism is not necessarily the news anymore. fact-based, journalism has turned into opinionated pieces, and journalism has turned into, well, this is what I think is going on, and it's not necessarily something that is, here's the cold hard facts, you decide. We're being told how to think a lot of times in journalism, whether it's even newspaper articles now, all the way to tweets, where that's where I say it all the time. My newspaper is Twitter, and I check it in the morning. I always check it at night. And if I have time during the daytime, I dabble in, because I want to see what's going on the second, on the moment. But the problem with that is these journalists want to put out stories in the second, in the moment of when something happens, to be the first to do it, but maybe not getting all of the information that they need to. They just want to be the first, and they'll apologize later and figure it out later if there's not. But it's almost this, who can put something out first and how wild can you make the caption and make people click it, is what's kind of shifting a lot of things in journalism, I think. What are your thoughts on it?
I think that this is a problem that is specific to sports journalism. I think that there's like other spaces, like video games journalism, different kinds of criticism, I think maybe falls into this area. But I think sports is very vulnerable to this kind of thing, because the main places where people get their sports news, like ESPN, for instance, where Schefter's employer, they have an ongoing economic relationship with the NFL that highly incentivizes them to, I don't want to say go easy, but maybe not go as hard on the NFL when they need to, because they have a contract with the NFL to air games, and that's a huge part of the income for ESPN. And I think that blurs the lines. And listen, having been around sports journalists a lot, when you trade in access, right, it's undoubtedly great for your career. Journalists like Schefter, like Woj, like Shams, they have a product that people want for whatever reason, whether it's their fantasy stat or just to know more than their fellow fan, or just whatever, to be able to feel like they're seeing what's happening in the moment, to use your words. But the issue is, you then have to water and feed and manage those relationships that you have with the people that give you the information. And that's clearly what happened here. Now, I think 98% of the time, it doesn't fucking matter. Like Adam Schefter, tweets some kind of deal news, and all that does is, tell people like what free agent got signed, and maybe some people are like, oh, I know what to do with my fantasy team now. I'll make a tweak to my fantasy lineup. Like that's the kind of, and 98% of the time, it's fine. It's value added for people. Exactly. This is the 2%. This and like his coverage of the Washington football team, where it was discovered that he had, allowed a subject of a piece to look at a piece and tell him whether he should edit it. This is where you start to get into issues that are really troubling. I mean, again, this is Schefter knowingly or unknowingly muddied the waters of an ongoing domestic abuse case. That's
new, because what does that mean in the grand scheme of things? And even again, this is something that is a normal thing that happens, where people pretty much can decide a narrative that they want to push. The social media is, like where public opinion happens, per se. Like, it used to be only the news. It used to be, you got your news from CNN, MSNBC, and that's where you got your information, and it told you almost how to think from those newscasters and the anchors. But now social media can sway public opinion. And so when you talk about an open investigation, well, what does that mean? How does social media now play a role in things? It's like, it's completely, even how we watch trials unfold now with Kyle Rittenhouse, and we have the Ahmaud Arbery trial. There's people, like, as the trials are going on, we're talking about it live on Twitter. People's opinions are being formed, and will it change the outcome of those things? No, but there's something to be said about persuading the minds of the people, of the public. And now you see it happening a lot in sports journalism, and athletes have taken that power back, though. Athletes have now, there used to be only one side of the story told in sports with traditional journalism, but now with podcast and other platforms that athletes are speaking on, somebody can say something about an athlete now, and then Kevin Durant tweets, yeah, no, that's not how it went down. And then we get a whole nother world of opinions. So social media has opened up in a good way, but also there's some give and take to that.
That's a good point, because I think the social media of it all has actually empowered journalists like Schefter, like Woj, like Shams, because now there's actually, if you want to break into the kind of like access journalism game, now you're not just competing against Woj, Schefter, and Shams, you're competing against the players themselves who have the ability to just go straight to the consumer. Part of the issue, and you said it, with the way, narrative and opinion is shaped in real time on this social media. To go back to this story, I remember when the pictures came out. So when the news of the actual court case broke, post Schefter's tweet, and you saw the pictures of the victim, and I remember going into the Twitter comments right afterwards, after various people had shared, reporters, Mina Kimes and others had shared it. And all the comments were, oh, you mean the person that broke into Dalvin Cook's house and pepper sprayed him and then attacked him and he was defending himself? Do your own research. Like I know the story. And that's part of the problem with this kind of journalism is it is present and is quick and it's fast, but it is also like vulnerable to all kinds of distortions. Now, theoretically, again, as a person who's worked in sports journalism, there should be an editor, right? Yeah. That is powerful enough to say, hold on, I know you want to tweet this, but there's all kinds of liabilities that could come up. That could damage the company. Let's make sure that we are right about this stuff. Let's hold off. The thing is, like, if you're Adam Schefter, you make X amount of millions of dollars a year, there's probably no single editor at ESPN that has the power to be like, don't tweet
if
that.
If they want to keep their job.
Yeah, right? That's not going to happen. So even from the perspective of somebody who's not, like I've had a nice career as a sports journalist, definitely not to making the level of the Schefter money. At the same time, like working at places that I've worked, social media is always the place that you are vulnerable because it's the point of contact between you and the audience. And it's the lowest paid people who can potentially mess up and throw everything into turmoil. So it's just like I would hope that ESPN, after these last couple of incidents with Schefter, would put some kind of process into place, but I'm not confident that anybody has
and how can you
the juice to rein in a guy like Schefter, who's as powerful.
But it's tough though, because I just always think about like, how will the process work?
Right.
If Adam Schefter gets a call at 1 a.m.
That's the issue. That's exactly
1 a.m. East Coast time, which means it's still plenty of time to post it on the West Coast, like let's say hypothetically, and he gets a good nugget that by the time everybody wakes up, everyone will know. What happens in those moments? Because, I mean, this is not unrealistic. Athletes do stuff in the wee hours of the night. Yeah. Even a domestic violence case, all that stuff started to come out 5 o'clock in the morning. Like, this is early morning stuff happening. Do you wait until your editor can approve? Does your editor stay on call 24 hours a day? I just think through, because, like being on the other side of business, like the management side, I always think, well, how could you monitor them? Would I have to hire somebody for 24 hours a day to stay ready if Adam Schefter gets a nugget that he wants to tweet? And how can you stay on top of that in general if you're not? How?
And the other part of it is, if I'm Adam Schefter, I'm saying, hey, my business is being first. That is my job. Yeah. If I'm not first, I'm out on the fucking street. Yeah. So whoever is in the way of me being first, being an editor, be it anybody at ESPN that they try to put in, I'm gonna be constantly at this person's neck, because that's a threat to my position. Hurry up and give me back my story.
Yeah,
it's a threat.
Yeah. Did you read it?
That's a threat to my position in the industry. So, like, it's very, very tough. I'm not sure how you stop. It's obvious how you stop stuff from happening like this again, right? You have some kind of process in place, a person who looks over the information to make sure we're good. At the same time, that is not how Adam Schefter built his career. He built his career by being first. And having that information that he got from agents and
ESPN
players
has
and everybody.
benefited from it. And they benefited from
greatly,
it. So
greatly.
you have to always, we've talked a lot about when businesses benefit from something, how does that affect how they police it? And so if you have an Adam Schefter that even people have to understand, bad press is good press for some companies. If you want to be in the news, like he broke that news, right? And we saw it 30,000 likes and the apology got like a fraction of that, right? Do you think ESPN cares about that? They got 30,000 likes on that first one. So you have to always remember too, companies don't necessarily want to police something if it's working. That's the thing.
Even if they want to. And I'm not going to, like, there are good people at ESPN who I'm sure feel terrible about this and they don't want this to happen and yada, yada, yada. It almost doesn't matter because the economic incentive for being first is so strong. It's so powerful.
The money moves all the needles. Like, people need to know money moves things in sports. Like, that's period.
Like, I would imagine unless, and this is a big unless this results like in some kind of lawsuit where the person who is involved in this case says, hey, you actually slandered me or something to that effect. Like, this is just like the cost of doing business. You mess up sometimes you miss.
Who pays for that? Let's say, does ESPN pay for the lawsuit? To take it a step further, he's a reporter for ESPN and she ain't coming after just Adam, is she? Is she coming after Adam and ESPN? Because that's when the company cares. I'll tell you when the companies start to care. Once those lawsuits start rolling in and then they're like, oh, wait a minute, people, everybody run it by your editor first. Now, we saw what happened to Adam.
Well, as a sports journalist, we've had stories. I've been involved with stories where we have to kick it up to legal multiple times. Every time there's an edit, you want to run it by legal to make sure we're good. Obviously we're theorizing now, but I would imagine, listen, if I'm suing the person with the money, not like, and so Adam Schefter's got a lot of money, but ESPN got a lot more. You know what I mean? They got a lot more.
So imagine ESPN starts getting sued now because this social media reporting is new. I mean, it's fairly new in a sense of, I even talked to you guys about it in the pre-pro where women's sports, we don't have a Woj or an Adam Schefter per se yet where everybody knows that's the person that might drop the news. We just don't have like a solidified person. I don't know who the women's soccer person is, we don't know those names yet because honestly, 4% of media attention is what women's sports get. So not a lot of people were looking for stories in general. But now with this internet and journalism, you start to see those Wojs emerging on the women's side, and you start to see different people breaking different stories, and you start to hear names that are like, oh, they're breaking another story. And, like Christina Williams is somebody that's broken a lot of stories on the women's side in the WNBA. And so now you start to see it happening, but it's going to be interesting because these stories that are being broken, and even with the Adam, what's going to happen now if what he said, if that tweet is actually incorrect? What happens next?
What is it like to be like ground level of that, watching your sport go from, you want more attention, you want more eyes on it because that is the tide that will lift all boats economically. But at the same time, there's stuff that I'm sure got swallowed up that nobody will ever know about because nobody was looking. And now with people looking and now there's that interest, what is that shift been like?
It's been lit, honestly. Like, even just to see the young players right now, the different endeavors they're doing, the sponsorship deals they're doing, the tunnel walks, the amount of attention that even just fashion is getting in the WNBA, it's big lit. Like, I love it. And I always think back, and I know that's why we almost even talked about it earlier. Imagine if social media was a thing with some of the players that played before us, because players that play right now, the athletes that everyone sees and hears, and like, I'm an example of that type of athlete. We're very politically correct. We do things a certain way. We present ourselves. We're basically our own brands. But back in the day, players were a little more raw, I would say they're raw and unfiltered. Like, you can even see it now with a Scottie Pippen. Draymond Green is somebody that we see in our timeline now, where Draymond announced that he was one of the best players of all time, and it broke the internet for a second. That's stuff that people back in the day used to say out, like, they'll fight and be punching each other and saying those type of things. And so imagine the stories that weren't told about the Sheryl Swoops, the Cynthia Coopers, like all these names, the Dawn Staley's. We see how her personality even now on the internet has exploded, and she's a fun follow. Imagine her in her prime. And so that's my first thought. I'm like, man, imagine all the stories that we just don't know because we just didn't have that access back then. But that's where you see it now with people like Just Women's Sports and even what we're doing with Think Tank Productions. There's so many stories that we can choose from because a lot of stories haven't been told in women's sports. So me and Serena, we started a production company because they're like, oh my God, I know so many stories that people just don't even really know because no one's telling them. And I hope they start telling them now, but will all of those stories get told? I highly doubt it. Like, I highly doubt you'll be able to find those cool random stories that, they're just gone. And that's tough when it comes to women's sports, but also in the same part, you can be on the hot seat too, because now that there's more access, even things as far as what's going on with my team, fans were demanding answers and reporters were trying to find the scoop and they wanted some stuff and they didn't care if we was under investigation or not. They didn't care if there was other things. They didn't care. They said, we want answers right now. This is how it works now. And I was just like, wow, like that's lit. The fans are in tune, but there's a give and take. Like I said, there's always pros and cons.
It's time for Buzzer Beaters, where we talk about stories that we didn't cover in the show because of time. And this time, I am going to clear out and give Renee an ISO because there's big news from this weekend.
Okay. I know you hear it. That's wedding bells. In case you don't hear it, your girl is a whole wife out here, all right?
Woo!
Like, you know what I'm saying? And Jason, I have a little mini rant to go on. So shouts to my baby Serena Gray. She's a singer here in Atlanta. She does PR for me. She literally has built this whole thing around me when I opted out. And people don't really know how it happens. And they thought that I did it on my own. No, I have a whole wife that was behind the scenes on the ones and twos, making sure this was the right interview for me. This isn't. This is a good lot. Yeah, just doing all of that. But besides that point, we had a Zoom wedding in 2020 where everybody was having Zoom weddings. We just didn't announce it because we actually planned on having some type of real IRL reception, ceremony, something. We thought we'd be out of a pandemic by now, people. So here we are a whole year later and still in a pandemic. So we thought we need to just announce it, let everybody know. And people was so kind to put us in there on their platform and announce our wedding and so our Zoom wedding. And so it's exciting times. We got married in 4/2020 and so it hasn't been a full year yet, but we just thought, you know what, let's just announce it. People in my life, I accidentally call her my wife all the time. So people already knew, but I have a rant to go on. Shouts to my baby. Please. I love you, baby. She listens to the show every time and she's amazing. Hi, baby. So why didn't people tell me how lit, like we don't get, married life doesn't get enough love. Like we hear all the time about how you can be single, popping bottles, hot girl summer, even listen to how Cardi and Megan Thee Stallion, everybody's in love. Y'all better keep listening to Meg Thee Stallion and all that hot girl music and she happy in love. 1 year anniversary just posted up. Cardi B's married and I don't want to hear nothing about it. She's in love. These people, they need to start rapping about being in love and in married because it's lit. Imagine having somebody that it's a Saturday. You don't have nothing to do. You don't know what the streets is going to be like. But you do know that your favorite show, Succession, just released a new episode or the whole season's out and you want to binge watch it? And you got somebody that wants to talk storylines, talk characters, talk the plot, break it down. That's dope to me. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Netflix and chill is lit, but I think of myself as like a movie critic. And so I'm really into that. When I'm not working, I want to just sit at the house and do nothing and watch TV with somebody I can have a good conversation with it about. That's Serena. Married life is lit. That's all I wanted to say. Sorry, Jason. What's on your buzzer beaters or what's going on in your world?
I just wanted to throw it to you, but I just want to take one moment to address those people out here in the audience that maybe you're looking for that person. You listened to Renee just now. Go on for 2-3 minutes about how great married life is, a long relationship, how beautiful that is when you find that bond with somebody, you find your person. And you're sitting there in your car or wherever you're at the gym, wherever you're at, thinking, oh no, I need that. I need that in my life, and I don't have it right now. What am I gonna? You're gonna find it. I'm telling you, right? That is my buzzer beater. You're gonna find it.
Hang tight. You're gonna find it. Maybe if they find it in our comments, you know what?
Yes.
When we post this episode, let's make a match. All right, let's just do that. If you're single, under our post, and if you're listening to this conversation right now, drop the things you like to do under the comments. All right, just drop it and see if you find somebody that likes to do what you do. Find love in a hopeless place. It's a pandemic, but you can find love. Okay, that's what happened. All right,
that's it for us. Follow, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to Takeline Show on YouTube for exclusive video clips from this episode, plus my digital series, All Caps NBA, which comes out every Friday. Check it out. Goodbye.